Hi,
So we had
Vinicio.
some time zone confusion, I think, but I'm happy that we were able to finally meet. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you for being on my show. I've gone through your website. Uh, uh, I have seen the reason why you started your website and your motto and your intention. I really liked it. I feel great to tell about you and the work that you are doing to my audience.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, I, wi- I was watching a couple of videos from your channel over these last couple of weeks, and I love the interviews that you have and how you are able to talk to people and talk about computer science and many other topics. It's not just computer science, it's about technology and all of that. It's really nice.
So, Cadejo.
What's that?
Cadejo, CADJO .dev is your website.
Yeah, cadejo. We pronounce it cadejo. It's a Spanish word. It's a mythical beast that kind of protects people when they're going to places. So I decided that I wanted to protect students when they're studying in their computer science experience journey. So I made it cadejo.dev. That's CADEJO.dev.
So, before talking about it and before talking about you, can you please introduce yourself to my audience and to the world who is watching and listening to our conversation?
Yeah, my name is Vinicio Sanchez. I'm from a very small country called El Salvador, but I came to the United States in 2012, and I've been a software developer since 2015 here until now. I like computer science, and I also like to teach computer science. And when I teach computer science, one of my main goals is to teach people how to get into the tech industry, whether or not you have a bachelor's degree in computer science. I think that having a bachelor's degree is really important, but it should not be a requirement to be able to join the tech industry and to be able to contribute into computer science.
So, you are from?
I'm from El Salvador. It's a very small country in Central America.
Okay, but presently you are living in?
I'm living in the United States in Seattle, Washington.
Awesome. Uh, so that's a great thing. You came from Central America and now you are into North America. So, So computer science, I've seen you telling about computer science very interestingly because I did masters in software engineering. I did graduation in computer science and engineering. So that was quite interesting for me. Nobody saw computer science in the way you are trying to say through your medium. You know, if I would have a teacher like you, I would put more time on computer science, and I would have. I'm a professional cricketer. When I was doing my bachelor's degree, I didn't have much time to spend my time on I mean go to college and I was not too regular, but I was able to manage my sports and my uh, computer science engineering bachelor's degree. So when you are trying to tell about computer science and how it is how it is helpful and how easy it is, so I thought that if I would have a teacher like you, I would definitely come to college every day, spend a lot of time in trying to know about it and learn a lot of things and get a great job.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that computer science is a very beautiful field to study. And one of the best things about computer science is that you can basically bring whatever you like into computer science. So if you like martial arts, you can make an app that talks about martial arts, or like if you like music, or if you like plants or animals, or whatever you like, you can bring that passion, combine that with computer science, and build something with computer science. And most importantly, we need people solving problems that we have as humans, right? And a lot of good problems need to be solved from different points of view than just someone who has been all their life studying computer science, and that's it. That's the only thing that we know. I think you and I, you have been doing computer science for a long time, and maybe that's the only thing that we know. And another point of view could be useful, right? Someone who knows computer science and something else, like law or like business or music, something different that can help.
So, you done a degree in computer science?
Yeah, I have a degree in computer science from my country. And I actually liked computers since I was a child. I told my mom that I wanted to work with computers without ever seeing a computer, touching a computer. I had no idea how I came up with that idea, but I told my mom that I wanted to work with computers. So since I was about 7 years old, I've been studying computer science and trying to teach myself. It's a very poor country, my country, so I had a hard time finding a computer to start with and finding educations and finding teachers. But I've been playing with computer science since I was a child. I got my bachelor's degree from my home country, and then I came here to the States to study a little bit more. But since 2015, I've been working full time in the tech industry, which was a very interesting transition from my country to here.
So, what is your motivation? What was your inspiration? What actually driven you to come into computer science? Who said you to take computer science? Who said you to develop interest on hardware, software? Wh- who is the reason why you came into this and that interest developed in you?
Yeah. So since I was a child, as I told you, I've been into computer science. And when I was a child, I remember that I think I asked my uncle or someone, how do they make Mario Bros. Or a video game or something like that? And they told me with computers. And then I was really fascinated about the fact that people could just make things happen with computers, and they were just making things from nothing, right? Just computers were making things happen. And I think that was my initial motivation about studying computer science. And then slowly I realized that it's a very beautiful thing to be able to create something with just your thoughts, kind of. You're just trying to create something, and it's not painting, it's not poetry, it's something different that you're building with just your thoughts, a very complex structure. And I think that's very beautiful to be able to solve a problem with just your thoughts with the aid of a computer and the code that you make and all of that.
So, what is computer science?
Oof, that's a very interesting question. That's a very big question. But computer science is the study of software, the study of how we build and solve problems with the aid of computers. And if you go into traditional and theoretical computer science, that is basically how do we compute, how do we solve problems, what types of problems that we have, and how do we use the tools that we're making as humans to be able to solve those problems. And there's many definitions I think about about computer science, but that's one that I like a lot because it basically says that we as humanity have a lot of challenges, right? And we can use software and we can use code and algorithms to be able to solve those problems and to be able to basically survive as humanity.
So, do you know why human got this computer science thought?
How did they start computer science? If I remember correctly, it was math. They were trying to do calculations. They were trying to calculate the length of different pieces of land and try to pay taxes and all of that. And a lot of innovation in computer science always come with business and all of that stuff. But I think that was the origin. And then they were trying to make machines to be able to make the computation easier for people who were trying to make the computation. That's when Charles Babbage and Ada Lovelace come into the place, I think. Yeah.
So is it important for a country or for a education institution to have a particular time period in order to make a student understand about computer science? 4 years, 3 years degree.
Yeah, I think that kids should be learning computer science as early as they can. And I see that with my country a lot. In my country, we have two big problems, I think. People do not speak English, and people do not know computer science. And a lot of innovation and a lot of technologies are only usually available in English and are only available in computer science. And it doesn't mean that you have to be fluent in English, but you have to be able to understand a little bit about what's going on to be able to communicate with the rest of the world. And English is kind of the mostly spoken tongue, at least in computer science. And if you grow up without access to computer science, you're going to be basically behind many other countries, and you're not going to be able to contribute as much as you could to the field and to basically to just be able to participate in, society. Especially right now, where you have Facebook, you have Instagram, you have your bank accounts, everything is connected to your computer. And if you don't have a solid foundation of computer science, you could put your password in a post-it in front of your computer and think that that's okay, or get an email that looks a little bit funny, but you still enter your login and you enter your password and you get hacked, right? You get hacked even though you are the one who entered your own information into their system. So having a solid understanding of computer science is important in many different ways, and I think kids should start as soon as they can.
So science and computer. So understanding the mechanism that happens in computer and is computer is more powerful than human?
Huh. That's a very interesting question. I think it was Alan Turing, the one who came with the Turing experiment. I don't remember the name, but he proposed that if a computer was interacting with a human and the human wasn't able to distinguish if the interaction was with a human or with a computer, that's when we had created real artificial intelligence. And I think computers and humans are different and better at different things in different ways. Computers are really good at doing computations, as the name implies, like crunching numbers and like making things happen really, really fast. A lot of steps. Computers are great, but at least for now, they do need humans to be able to tell them what exactly needs to happen or to start that process, right? Even when you're thinking about machine learning and all of that, you still have humans starting that process and feeding the computer a lot of information to be able to start that. So I think there's pros and cons, but I think the two of them need to work together for us to be able to solve the problems.
So recently I did an interview with a person who is extremely experienced in tech industry. So he was telling that every 10 plus months in a year, the computer is increasing its speed, the fast, the responding, the problem solving ability. So what do you say from you observing computer and computer science from a long time? So what do you understood about computer science?
Yeah, I've definitely seen computers and systems become much and much faster and more efficient with time. But I think that we have a big bottleneck in that process, and that's us, that's humans. Systems are becoming so and so complex that, like if you look at Facebook or if you look at Twitter or if you look at any big company, for humans to be able to develop that, it becomes much, much complex. And I feel like a lot of the computer science techniques, at least that I've been studying since I began to code since 2015, is how to make systems easier for human to understand, because systems are becoming so complex that that a single brain cannot really comprehend what's going on. And we're talking about millions of lines of code that one person cannot possibly grasp every single file, every single thing. So we have to come up with different ideas to be able to manage that complexity. So yeah, the computer science is growing really fast, but also we still have to keep up with that process to be able to keep building software, right?
So a group of people, a group of computers, which one is more powerful?
Huh. Well, at least right now, I think a group of people are more powerful because we can still control things that are happening. But there's a lot of people. Have you seen some of those videos from Boston Mechanics, I think it's called, where they have the robots that are standing and can walk and can do all of these things? A lot of people will probably tell you that a bunch of computers are better, that are more powerful. But I think that for now, we still have the control, and we have to develop them.
So I understood that you're helping students in trying to understand about computer science, and you're trying to tell it very interestingly, uh, in very attention grabbing way. So what? How you see computer science? What you understood about computer science? Computer science is if you what I thought was understanding human psychology can help me in understanding computer psychology better. So that is why the reason I'm taking interviews of different country people who are into different professions. My intention is to become a good programmer, good tech guy. But why I'm doing interviews with completely different people who are not into tech? Because what I understood is uh, uh, if I can understand the communication system between human beings, I can create a better machine, or I can create a better software, or I can work on computer system better. So that was my thought. So what is your take on this?
Yeah, I think that your thought is a really accurate one. I feel like there is a point where you know how to write code, right? So you can write code and that's it. But then there's a lot more than goes into computer science than just writing code. You have to communicate with your teammates. You have to communicate with the people whom you're building the software for, your clients. You have to communicate with the people who are paying you, the company that's actually driving what the software is like. And so there's a lot of communication going on. So if the only thing that you know is how to code, you are going to be severely lacking into very important skills that you need to be able to build software. Particularly, once you know how to code and you can make things work, you begin to think about, okay, what is the best way and the most efficient way to implement this particular code? And then how can I make it easy to read and easy to understand so that when I come back or someone else comes back in 5 months, in 6 months, they're going to be able to understand the meaning that I'm trying to convey. So communication becomes really important once you know how to write code. Uh, so that's why I think that you talking with all these different people and trying to gauge all of these different ideas becomes really important, because once you write code, then you have to start to communicate with code. And that's much more complicated.
So you're saying that without a computer science degree, you can understand. You're telling students that you can understand without about computer science without a computer science degree. So how that is possible?
Yeah. So I feel like there's different levels of understanding in computer science. And for a long time, for decades, the only way that you could start in the tech industry was to have a bachelor's degree, right? Um, but that doesn't, at least in the United States right now, and I know that this changes from country to country, and this changes from company to company. But at least right now, here you don't need a bachelor's degree in computer science to be able to start. Now, a lot of people misunderstand this idea with thinking about, oh, that means I'll never need to learn all of this. And that is not what I'm trying to convey. What I'm trying to convey is that to start and to start making money in computer science, you don't need to have a bachelor's degree that takes you 5 years and puts you in 20K or 100K student loans. What you need is to just have a basic understanding of coding and have a basic understanding on how to solve problems with computer science. Now, down the line, though, you should keep studying and you should always be trying to grasp all of these concepts in computer science. But companies do not need only the most experienced developers, they also need junior people that are willing to learn and that are willing to start to take their first steps into computer science. And for that, they don't need a bachelor's degree. It's useful, don't get me wrong, it's really useful, but you don't need it if you don't have the money or if you don't have the time to get one of those. But should you keep studying? Yes, of course.
So, what do you say? What are your words to the people who are not who didn't even started computer science, who didn't entered into computer science? What are your words? They will be having multiple thoughts in their minds. They don't know what happens. They don't know what will be their future once they enter into computer science. They don't know how it will be. They think that after seeing the code, not it is not a human language to understand. The computer language, they feel fear. I know a lot of people seeing Java, .NET, Python, or C plus, all computer related things. They feel fear. They feel scared. Seeing all those things, they feel sometimes they will withdraw their decision. No, I don't want to come. I don't want to become a computer engineer. It's very tough. I can't do. So what do you say to the new people who don't have a single bit of knowledge about computer science?
Yeah. So I believe that a lot of the problems people have with getting introduced to computer science are not about people not being good about computer science, but sadly about people not being good at teaching computer science. If I take a beginner person, I wouldn't throw them C++ or I wouldn't throw them into C or into assembler or any other of these languages, which is the way that I began to code, by the way. So it was a very painful process, right? And in a lot of colleges, universities, and stuff like that, they used to start with Java or very complicated languages that at least doesn't really correlate with how we think. And when the professor introduces a topic, sometimes it's not a very topic that people can connect to. So I feel like a lot of the problems people have with computer science is because they're not getting their education from people that make it easier to learn computer science. They can be really good at teaching once you know. They can be great. But the beginning stages can be really, really critical. And I think that it's very important that people who want to get into computer science and they feel afraid about how the code looks like and about how there's a lot of math and stuff like that, that they find an easier introduction to computer science. Because in the end, computer science is just about you organizing your thoughts and telling the computer what you want the computer to do. And if you can have a conversation in English, in Spanish, in Japanese, or any language, you're already organizing your thoughts and communicating to someone else. It just so happens that the computer needs to be told in a very specific way what you need them to do. But that's basically it. It takes a while, but find a good instructor and find a good, easy introduction to computer science. that doesn't rely a lot on very arcane languages like C or C++ or Java and all of those things. Those languages are great, but I would recommend a language like Python or JavaScript, at least to start.
Is it important for a human being to know English in order to understand computer science? Is it mandatory?
Yeah, I don't think it is necessary for a human being to know English to learn computer science. When I was a kid and I began to learn computer science, I did all of it in Spanish. The problem that I had was that a lot of books and a lot of material was not available in Spanish. So that was my biggest problem. But besides that, all my code was in Spanish, and my thought process was in Spanish, and I had no problems using Spanish to be able to learn computer science. So if you speak a different language and you have access to materials in the language that you're trying to study computer science in, then no, it doesn't have to. Things like while or like for loops or like things like that may seem a little bit funny, but as long as you know what's the meaning in your language, I think you're going to be okay. I feel like the main problem is uh, having materials in your tongue talk about computer science, which is kind of one of the goals that I have with my site. In the next couple of months, I'm trying to start to speak in Spanish as well, so that people from a lot of Latin America have access to this content in Spanish and they don't have to do it just in English.
That's amazing, man. So I'm sure in this process, in this teaching process, you might have seen a lot of, you might have experienced, or you might have listened a lot of questions from different people who want about computer science. What are the common questions that you listen?
Yeah, the most common question by far that I've gotten from students is that they were not good at math in high school. And they think that computer science is not for them if they were not good at math in high school. And to them, I tell them that there is a lot that you can do in computer science without math, and that you do need some math, but you don't need at least to start calc 1, calc 2, and like integrates and derivates and like partial differential equations. You don't need that to start. You need basic algebra, and that's it. You can start building some code with basic algebra, and just because you had a hard time with math in high school doesn't mean that you're going to have a hard time, at least such a hard time in computer science. The other common question is that they had a hard time in high school with like Spanish or with like French or with their second language they were trying to study, and they're thinking that going to a programming language is going to be as hard. And it's not the same as learning French. It's not the same as learning Spanish. It's a different thought process, and you're just organizing your thoughts and conveying them to the computer, and that's the most important thing. So whether or not you had a hard time with Spanish or French or Mandarin or whichever language you studied in high school, that's okay. You'll be okay in computer science. And then the last question that I hear often is, do I really don't need a bachelor degree to be able to get into computer science? And there's a lot of answers to that question. The first one is it's going to depend a lot of the company. For example, in my company that I work for, we are about 10 developers right now. And I think that 4 of them do not have a bachelor's degree in computer science. Many of us do, but not all of them. Uh, so it's going to depend on the company actually being willing to hire people without computer science degrees. The other part of it is just because you don't have a computer science degree doesn't mean you should just learn the bare minimum to be able to get into computer science. You still have to learn a lot of things, like how the algorithms work and basic computer science, the logic and quicksort and all of these things. You should be aware of what they are, but that doesn't mean that you have to get the degree to start. But in the end, it's going to be about the company. The company has to also be willing to hire someone who doesn't have one.
So time, how much time it takes for a person to understand computer science?
I think that's going to vary a lot on their past experiences and on the familiarity they have with logic thought process. So, for example, if you're really good at puzzles and really good at conveying really abstract ideas, it may be easier for someone who has that that understanding. Some people can do it probably in like a couple of weeks. They get just the basic idea of what coding is. Some people need a few months, like 1 or 2 months. Some people need 6 months. Some people need an entire computer science degree, 4 to 5 years. But I think that computer science, and at least thinking about code, is a very human concept. Even though it may not look like that if you're looking at it from the outside, but it's just about us communicating with the computers, and that's what we do. We communicate ideas. Just the computers have a very specific way, but that's it basically. So I think it's going to depend a lot on your background and a lot of how much time you're willing to invest into it. But it's perfectly doable in about a month to about 4 months. So when I was an instructor, I taught at a code school here in Seattle. We created developers that were ready for the industry in about 4 months. It was a very stressful process for them, but they were ready to be hired by the tech industry right here in 4 months.
So which past experience will help more in coming into computer science? Some people have psychology background, some people have law background, some people have business background. So which background helps a person to understand the computer science faster?
Yeah. So I think that whichever background has you use to paying attention to tiny details and being very methodical about your thought process, that's the most important one. Could be law, could be business, could be any background that you have, but it has to be tiny details and being particularly careful about small things. And I'm gonna give you an example. I had one student who, if he's listening to this, he'll know that I'm talking about him, who always made very tiny mistakes, like a semicolon or like a comma or like a bracket wasn't in the right place. And he would spend a long time just looking at the code and trying to find what the problem is, right? And I always just told him, just be very careful about your line and look at it character by character. Is there something missing? So I feel like any background that has you think in very small steps and that has you being very careful about details, you're gonna be really good at computer science, because that's what computer science is: being very careful about your thought process and being very good about tiny details. That's one side. And the other side, being very good at talking with people. Uh, because as I said before, you're going to have to communicate with your coworkers, with your product, with your clients, and being able to convey what or to understand what they need and being able to build what they need. That's one of the most important things, because it doesn't matter if you're the best developer ever. You can create the most efficient code, but you build the wrong thing. You build something that they didn't ask for, then all your talent is not useful. So being able to communicate with people and being able to be very methodical, that's the two important things.
So, is there any particular thinking way which works for everybody in order to understand computer science? How to think?
Yeah, I don't think there is a very specific way for people to be able to think about computer science, mainly because computer science is so big, right? And if you're thinking about CSS and front end code, it's not the same as what you're thinking with back end code and more like logic based code. So I don't think you have a very like a unique way to think about computer science. Having said that, there are things that are definitely useful. Uh, the most important thing is taking very small steps, very being very methodical about things that you are making in code, and also don't make it and avoid making assumptions. A lot of the problems that I have is me making assumptions about something that should be right, and then that creates a bug or that creates a problem that I have to solve. So those three things are very important thing. But besides that, I feel like everyone should be able to find their own way to think about computer science and to like absorb that.
So, how much money should they need in order to understand computer science?
How much time do they need? Well, ideally, they don't need any money to understand computer science. I found a lot of great free material online that they could just take, right? And they could just start learning computer science on their own. Now, obviously, they need a computer and they need access to the internet, and that has some money involved. But at least for the material itself, you don't really need a lot of money to start. I feel like what money does, it makes things faster because then you can either hire someone that just talks to you and tries to understand how you think and tries to give you the best thing that you need to be able to get into computer science, or you can buy books, or you can get into a college, or you can get into a program that is more geared to what you need. So I feel like money just makes things faster, but at least to start, you shouldn't need anything but a computer and an access to an internet connection, and that's it.
People who are already into different subjects, who are already done different degrees in different subjects, not in computer science. So they will be thinking there are already a lot of people in the tech industry. There are already a lot of people who are already into the computer science. So uh, they think that they will not have value, or they will not get a job without a degree or without having the computer science background. What do you say to the those kind of people who are who never was into computer science?
Yeah, it's funny that you ask that because that's a very common question I get from students. Students who have a degree in something else and they're trying to get into tech, they always feel very afraid of people like me, like you, who like have been doing computer science for a long time, and they feel that they're not going to be able to compete, or they feel they're not going to be able to contribute as much, or they feel like they're not going to be able to find a place in the computer science industry. And I have two answers to people like that. The first answer is computer science is growing and growing, and we need more and more people to be able to like feed this hungry industry that just keeps needing more and more people. So we definitely need more people. I think there is a study that the United States government made that said that we only have, I don't want to misquote the numbers, but that we don't have enough people in the tech industry and that we won't be able to have them. I think it was until 2050, something like that. We won't be able to produce enough devs until that year. So we definitely need a lot of developers. And perhaps there comes a point where you're going to be able to where you're going to have a bachelor's degree in computer science, and you won't be able to compete. But at least right now, that is not the case. We're in a really golden time for people to jump into computer science, whether or not they have a bachelor's degree in computer science. And this is going to happen here in the US and also in many other countries. The computer science industry is going to evolve there because they have different problems they have to solve with tech, and different countries are going to have the same process, or they're going to need more and more people in computer science. So that's about whether or not we have people in computer science. And the other one is, well, computer science is all about solving problems, right? And if you only solve problems with one point of view, and that point of view is, I've done computer science my whole life, and that's all I know. That's going to be a very biased point of view to be able to solve that problem. Uh, and to be able to understand that problem better, we need different points of view coming from people with different backgrounds. So they are able to understand and they are able to code perhaps a solution that is more informed about their previous experience. For example, if you were building a software to create some law or with some transactions, and you need to think about the taxes and about the fees and about all of this. A perfect team would be a developer who also has a lot of accounting and a lot of business and like a lot of law background, and a couple of devs with traditional computer science background, so that the one who understands law and taxes can help inform about that area and also contribute code in that area, because he or she will be able to understand the problem better than me or you that have been playing with C++, C assembly since we were like 5 years old. So yeah.
So tell me about computer science impact on society.
Of computer science is everywhere. And sadly, it can have a positive impact and it can have a negative impact in society. It can have a negative impact whenever it doesn't help people gain information or gain access or gain knowledge to computer science. And when it creates divisions between different people, it has a horrible impact. Or when it basically makes things easier for a subset of people, but if you don't have access to it, things will become more and more uneven. But it also can solve a lot of problems. It can make things faster. It can make things easier. It can make things cheaper. And it is able to allow us to solve very complex problems that we need to solve, like the environment and like population control and catastrophes and predictions. And now that we're dealing with the pandemic and all of that, it can help. Like the computer science industry can help make problems easier to solve.
So what is world without computer science?
I think there's two ways to answer that problem, that question, right? A world without computer science right now would be a disaster. Like the whole industry will collapse, and the bank accounts, and you have Bitcoin, and you have like the airplanes that will crash, and you have all the cars that will collapse. It will be chaos. It will be an apocalypse. Uh, but if we slowly get rid of computer science, we already lived for a long time without computer science, and we have math, and we have like accounting, and we still have algorithms, but they were just not in the way that we think about it as in computers, right? As in my cell phone, as in my computer, and all of that. So we would be definitely a more inefficient society, and we won't be able to communicate it with one another as easily. For example, we are having this conversation, and we will never be able to have this conversation without computers. Maybe with a phone, I guess, but that would be if it's allowed in computer science. So it will be a much more inefficient society, I think, yeah.
So computer science is a universal subject. Can any country person understand computer science?
Yeah, I was thinking about that question a couple of weeks ago. And I think that everyone, unless you have a particular disability with like learning or language or understanding, uh, almost everyone should be able or is able to communicate in computer science and to write some software. I feel like everyone who wants to become a developer can become a developer. Now, a lot of people will say, well, that doesn't mean that they cannot be a great dev or the best dev. So I didn't say that everyone could be the best dev ever. I said that everyone could become a dev and everyone could contribute into the computer science, unless you have a serious disability with how you think or how you process. Maybe you had an accident or something like that. But I think that's a very minute fraction of the population. Everyone else should be able to learn computer science.
So you are an instructor. I'm sure you'll have a lot of experience with students. Can you tell a few?
Yeah, I feel like the biggest experience that I had with students getting into computer science is how afraid they feel about not being enough in the computer science, or like they don't have a lot of experience or they don't have a lot of knowledge. And the way that this manifests when they finally find a job is they work really, really hard, maybe too hard. Like they stay up until like 10, 11 p.m. coding, coding, coding. They work really hard. And the secret that I tell them is, hey, everyone feels the same way. Everyone feels that they're not doing enough. And there will almost always be someone in the company or in the field that is better than you or then has more skills or has more time or is very specific in that particular background, right? So that experience of feeling inadequate in the computer science is one of the most common uh, that I get. But also, I've seen people who, before getting into computer science, couldn't like afford many things that they needed in their lives, or were having a really hard time just surviving with different jobs and all of that. And then the jump that you get, at least here, and I'm sure that's the case in many countries, is that tech industry right now it has very good salaries, very good jobs. It's a complete jump between tech industry and not tech industry. So they completely changed their lives and they're happier and they're grateful and they're it's a complete life-changing experience for them to be able to go into the computer science industry, especially if they love computer science.
So what age group is suitable to understand computer science?
Uh, I think like ideally, the younger than you are, the better. Uh, just because understanding new things is usually easier when you're much younger. For example, I'm trying to learn Japanese right now, and I'm finding a much harder time learning a third language than when I began studying English. So I think that the younger you are is obviously the better, but it doesn't matter how old you are, you should be able to learn computer science. The only thing that's going to change is how much time and how much effort you have to spend learning computer science. I've had students who are 50 years old, 60 years old, and they are able to get into computer science. But that doesn't mean it's easy, but it's doable. You can learn computer science if you put enough effort into it.
So computer science is human studying subject, or other animals or other living things also can understand computer science.
Huh. That's an interesting question. I think that computer science needs some amount of intelligence, right? So, like intelligence to be able to communicate and to convey things and to be able to shape your thought, right? So, when you say a human thing, maybe not human like, but it does require some intelligence. So, if we have like a dolphin that becomes really intelligent and is able to convey their own thoughts and is self aware, I think any species could do it. Or if you go into the other side of the equation and you think about aliens, right? Like in another planet or something like that, I'm pretty sure that if they exist, they have some sort of mathematical computer system that's going to be able to solve problems for them. But I think it requires intelligence. Now, whether humans are the only intelligent species, that's a different discussion.
So how does computer science help a human being to be human being?
I think it does it by allowing us to better understand and how to better examine how we think. Because sometimes a lot of the students that I've seen have issues getting into computer science because they have issues about organizing their thoughts, right? And the way that I talked to them is I said, okay, let's make a list of all the things you want to happen. You want to make this button green, you want to disable something, you want to send an API call, many, many things, right? Let's make a list of everything that you are trying to make happen, and let's see how we can transform that into code that you can then tell the computer, right? So sometimes it's not that they don't know what an if statement is or what a for statement is or what a while loop is or anything about that. It's about how they're organizing their thought process. And in the process of just thinking about how they think, they're able to basically become more in tune with their thought process and be able to think better, more effectively. And that's what we are, right? We're humans. We think about things. Um, I don't remember what Homo sapiens means, but I think it's the one who thinks, right? Homo sapiens thinks sapiens means to think. So that's what we are. We think. So if we become better at thinking, we're becoming more human, I think.
So how do you are saying that a person can get a job without a computer science degree? You are saying that. So uh, how do recruiters see? What is their perspective? How they'll take a person having computer science degree will do better job, or a person having a computer science knowledge without having a degree?
Yeah, I think it's going to change from different companies to different companies. And I'm not going to lie to everyone and tell them that people are going to prefer someone who doesn't have a bachelor's degree in computer science. That's not going to happen in a lot of companies. You are always going to be in a small disadvantage against someone who has a bachelor's degree in computer science. But we need so many people right now that it doesn't matter that you are in a small disadvantage. You can still find a job in the computer science industry. Recruiters are going to prefer usually someone with a lot of experience, and that's one of the problems we have right now, that companies do not give new people enough chances to get in and to get some experience. They just want people who have a lot of experience. And then where are people going to find that experience, right? So yeah, from that front, it's going to come a lot about the company itself. But the good news is we need so many people that it doesn't matter that you're not in the most privileged position to be able to find a job. It is still doable. And we have about 20 to 25 years, perhaps 50 years, where this is going to keep happening. Uh, but I always encourage people that once they get a job and once they are in a place where they feel really comfortable and happy, they should pursue and they should continue their education in computer science, because there's a lot of things that they teach you in computer science school that is still very important, and you won't use it every single day. People always say, I've never used big O notation in at the office, or I've never used Dijkstra's algorithm, or I'll never use quicksort. And that's true, you don't use it every single day. But when you need it, it's very important because you're solving a very important challenge. And that's why it's important that you acquire those skills even though you don't use them every day.
So, how a person with computer science knowledge uh, is beneficial or will be helpful or is contributing to other human beings in the world?
Yeah. So one of the nice things we have as developers is that we can kind of be a passage or like an interface or like a link with the computers, right? So if humanity or if a company or someone needs a problem to be solved, we developers are able to make that happen. And even if we don't fully understand the problem, as long as we understand what needs to happen and what the computer needs to do, we are able to write code to make something happen. So I think that the way that we help is by solving problems. Now that assumes that we're solving the right problems, and that assumes that we are solving the problems, right?
Computer science is emotion or logic?
It's logic based emotion, I would say. Because like the entire architecture is logic, it has to be very logical, it has to be very profound, it has to make sense, or it will fall and be buggy and all of that. And we went through a whole crisis in computer science in the 70s, in the 60s about where things were breaking apart. It has to be very logical and very sound. But you're talking about users, right? You're talking about users buying products. You're talking about users going from places to places. You're talking about users doing things. So in one end, you always are going to have a user doing something. And humans are very emotional. We're driven by emotion, by feelings. So you have to take that into account as well. But behind the scenes, it's all logic, and you have to make sure that your logic is very profound. But also, you have the developers. Developers are also humans too, right? And they're building their own things with a lot of emotion, a lot of like passion. But behind the scenes, there's a lot of architecture. Yeah.
So, can a person having logical thinking, uh, a person is completely emotional person, uh, can that kind of a person understand and have logical thinking and come to computer science?
Yeah, I think that a person who's more logical in their thinking is going to have an easier time getting used to algorithms and about computer science and about bugs and about how to make things work when they're not working. But humans, kind of by definition, we're kind of very logical by default. We drive, we get dressed, we walk, we talk, we do a lot of things. So even though someone may have a more emotional thought process, they're still very capable of being able to communicate with computers and to be able to make code work, even though someone who has a more logical thinking may have an easier time.
I have a lot of questions, but the time that you gave me is about to end.
We only have
Uh,
1 hour, but I'm very happy to come back if you want me to in a couple of weeks, a couple of months. It's very nice to talk to you and talk about all these interesting questions. Yeah.
so, AI, what is AI?
Artificial intelligence. That's a lot of AI. It's a very interesting question because it's a problem and it's a concept that has been talked in many different ways. Uh, a lot of people, when they talk about AI, there's basically just math and probability and a lot of algorithms simulating very smart decision process. But if you go into theory, artificial intelligence is basically just us trying to understand what intelligence is and us trying to replicate intelligence with the things that we create, with computers, with algorithms, trying to replicate our thought process. There is a mathematical theorem that you may be familiar with. I don't remember exactly, so you may have to help me out. But it's about grammar and about how computers will never be able to understand human grammar, because human grammar, I think, is level 3 or level 4, I don't remember, and computers can only understand level 2. So no matter how smart computers become, no matter how efficient computers become, how fast, we'll never have a Star Wars like society where, like, I'm talking to R2D2 and they understand and they communicate. We're never going to have that. We can get really close, but we'll never have it because they are not going to be able to understand the grammar that our language uses. So just things like that or this or that thing that you said, computers are going to be freaked out about all of the ambiguity in our communication.
So my last question is, what do you say to the three level people who are beginners into computer science, who are intermediate level of computer science, who are experts in computer science at last?
Okay. So if they are beginners in computer science, I would tell them to don't give up. And I will tell them that everyone in our human species should be able to learn computer science and should be able to get into the tech industry. And whether or not you get a bachelor's degree in computer science, you should be able to find a job in the tech industry, even if it's not easy. Some people expect it to be like a month, and it can be 1 year, perhaps, of trying to get it. But don't give up. Keep that in and keep trying to become a better developer. If you're an intermediate student, I would tell you that just because you know how to write code doesn't mean you're a good developer yet. Once you write code, you start to think about what is the most efficient or the best way to write code. And that is all about abstraction, encapsulation, about how to communicate things, about how to talk with my managers, about how to make sure that I don't make bugs. And you still have a lot more to learn and understand about computer science. And it's going to be something that takes a lot of time, so never stop trying to improve your skills. It's a very deep area that we're trying to do computer science. And if you're an expert, I would tell you to basically mentor people and help people as much as I can. As much as you can, because people need help. And if you are acquired mastery in a subject, it's really important that you mentor people who may need your help.
So you was giving answer for intermediate level computer science.
In intermediate level people, coding is a lot more than writing just code. You have to communicate with people, you have to communicate with everyone, and you have to think about what is the best way to implement something. And the most important thing that I would tell you or someone at this level would be try to focus a lot on making code that's easier to read and easier to understand, and not fall into the trap of writing very smart code or very code that is really cool and like one-liners that do everything. Don't fall into that trap. Try to make code that's very easy to read and very easy to understand, so that you or other people can make changes to that code. And then if you are an expert, I would advise you to mentor people as much as you can, because there's a lot of people that are going to be on their beginning stages, or they're going to be at their more intermediate stages that will need help from you. And you already acquired mastery in a subject, so you could keep improving, and that's always great. But also dedicate some time to mentor people and to teach them what you know.
So at last, what do you say about my questioning in this video?
What about that? I think I know.
Yeah, about my questioning. What do you say about my questioning, my interviewing skills?
I like it. I like how you're able to bring different topics and different ideas. You definitely kept me on my toes, trying to think about AI, trying to think about machines, about computers. It's a very interesting experience. And I love computer science. So this is a very beautiful field that we can just keep talking for hours and hours on end. So it's a very nice thought process from different ideas, different angles. It's very nice. You ask very cool questions and very deep core questions. It's basically talk about the foundation of what we like, which is computer science, right? So I think it's very nice. Yeah.
So I try to ask a few questions in the given time. I hope it reaches our video, our conversation reaches to a lot of people in the world, and at least one person can change and create his the computer science interest and can develop skills by listening to you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And I'm always happy. We want to have a more detailed conversation about machine learning, about computer science, about theoretical computer science, or about just people trying to enjoy computer science. It's a beautiful subject, I feel, and however many people can join in, the better society will be, I think.
So, can I put this video on my YouTube channel with your permission?
Oh yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
And also, can I put this audio and video clip on my podcast, website, internet, social media, everywhere with your permission?
That's amazing, yeah. Please also visit cadejo.dev, that's cadejo.dev, where you're going to have all my computer science ramblings and trying to make you the best developer that I can make you.
So I'll put your website link in the on the screen on above on the screen. People who watches this can see your link, and I also have the
Yeah.
link and then in the description of this video on YouTube. Can people who can see the work that you are doing can learn from your tips. I saw you are telling me about a lot of things related to computer science. I'm sure not only US people from different parts of the world who is watching our conversation can learn from the deep knowledge that you have about computer science.
Thank you very much. Thank you, I appreciate that. It was a very nice interview.
So in future, if you want to say anything through my medium, if you want to tell about computer science, I'm ready to interview you again and tell through my medium.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Keep going, keep doing what you love.
Take care, bye.
Bye.